Science with Miss Bright. Today we have a new mystery science investigation. Let's get started. As usual, we do have our mystery science investigation envelope that also says top secret. So inside the note says, "Hi scientist, today we're going to have a floating egg investigation. Love the investigator." Before we get started, we do have two new vocabulary words. Our first word is density, and density is a word we use to describe how much space an object takes up in relation to the amount of matter in that object. Our second word is buoyancy, and buoyancy refers to how well something floats or sinks. An example for the word density: if you think about a bowling ball and a basketball, a bowling ball is going to have more density than the basketball would. In terms of buoyancy, a rubber duck would be considered buoyant because it does float on top of the water. For our investigation today, we're going to see what happens when we put an egg in a glass of water. So before we begin our investigation, we are going to first ask a question. I do have my question board here. So our question is, what happens when you put an egg in a regular glass of water? So again, what happens when you put an egg in a regular glass of water? Okay, we're going to start by making our prediction, which is a guess about what we think will happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and write my prediction now. I think the egg will float. All right, again, my prediction is I think the egg will float. The next step is to list out the materials that we're going to need for the investigation. So we're going to need 1 egg, water, salt, a drinking glass, and a spoon. All right, so our materials are 1 egg, water, salt, drinking glass, and a spoon. We're gonna go ahead and get started on our investigation. So I have my drinking glass, salt, my spoon, and the water that we're going to use. I also have my egg. So step number 1 says to pour water into glass until half full. So here's my drinking glass. I'm gonna go ahead and pour the water in. Okay, so that's about half. Step number 2 says place egg into the water and observe. So I am going to go ahead and put the egg in the water. So make sure you're watching closely. all right? So we noticed that the egg sunk. Step number 3 says stir in lots of salt. So this is the part that's going to be interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my salt. I'm gonna start pouring it in. I'm going to stir a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna add more salt. Again, I'm going to stir. Okay, and I'm gonna add in a little bit more salt. It's kind of hard to see the egg at this point with all of the salt. But if you are noticing, the egg is actually floating on the top of the water now. If you can see that. So the egg is right here on top. So the more salt we added to the water, it caused the actual egg to float on top. I'm not sure if you saw this now. I just poked the egg and it came back up. So do it again so you guys can see. So the egg did float in the water. The last part of our investigation, step number 4, says to add some fresh water into the water and observe. So we're going to try that. So I noticed when I did that, the egg is still floating here in the middle. It's not as high. Okay. All right, so it's time to explain our results. Normally, the egg is more denser than the water, which causes the egg to sink. When we added the salt to the water, it caused the water to be more dense than the egg, which caused the egg to float. So my prediction was correct. The egg did float. Now you could say, well, when we first dropped it in the Sprite, it did not float. And it did it in regular water. But it did float with the help of the salt. I want to thank you all for watching. Again, I miss you all so much. Take care. Love, Miss Bright. Bye.